And we're back for game number 2 of this best of 3. Na'Vi taking on Virtus Pro, and well, the game 2 is kind of coming to us pretty quick. Virtus Pro, unfortunately, having to tap out sub 20 minutes in game number 1. Na'Vi just picking them apart, and again, the watchwords used during the draft is surgical versus shotgun, and really Virtus Pro kind of had a shotgun lineup. They had the support gyrocopter, had great team fight potential with the Darkseer to synergize with that, and Naga Siren as well. But in the end, Na'Vi just wielded the knife a little bit too adeptly and just able to slice apart Virtus Pro's game plan and really subdued them in remarkable fashion. I mean, again, it wasn't as if Virtus Pro just gave up and GG. They were pretty hopelessly behind, and the AA handled by Dindy mid, which again is a flash back to more than a year ago when you would see AA wind up mid from time to time. Just a little much to overcome. I'm Aaron AC Chambers, live here for this broadcast of the D2L, and I'm joined by the Capitalist. Welcome in again, my friend.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Like you said, game 1 was pretty short. Real dominating spree by Na'Vi, but hopefully game 2 will be a little bit. Virtus Pro will be able to put up a much better fight, and I'm sure they will. I think Na'Vi, they were just fully prepared for the draft by Virtus Pro. They like running Templar Assassin. Even after the nerf, we saw TA dramatically drop off. She just really fell out of the scene, especially in the American scene. Was never really seen a whole lot. Virtus Pro, they still continuously ran TA from time to time, and it felt like Na'Vi, they were fully prepared for that. Absolutely destroying it with that Ancient Apparition middle and some good ganks, some nice roaming around by Nyx Assassin, and even the Bounty Hunter, like you said, he wasn't of much consequence.
No.
As long as they landed that Nyx stun, they're pretty much a guaranteed kill. But still, all around, really good play by Na'Vi game 1.
Na'Vi can land themselves a bad rider, that in and of itself. And, that's something that's worth mentioning. More and more people are beginning to realize the Bat is a real horror to deal with, but he's not quite what everyone thought he was for quite a while. I mean, Darkseer and he are kind of interchangeable. It just depends on team and draft and composition. Which of those two heroes really gets the nod in terms of being available to pick in the first 2 or being banned out. But the Gyrocopter is a hero who has really been making his way into a lot of teams' early ban phases, for good reason. And we saw, even in that game, as poorly as he did, Rocket Barrage's damage is still just so stupidly high, and he works so well with so many other heroes. Virtus Pro showing us kind of an interesting opening here. Nature's Prophet and Naga. The Naga Siren being picked early. But I'm really anxious to see what kind of longevity that hero is going to have. She is being picked across the board by so many teams. She's really taken on the role of kind of a DK in the fact that she can be a hard farming carry out of a tri-lane, defensive tri-lane, or she can actually hold her own mid so long as she feels confident about it. And seeing the Bat pick up, that can make that a little bit chancy. But really, most teams nowadays are running the Bat in places other than mid. It doesn't mean you won't ever see him mid. But I think many teams have just realized, you know what? The Bat is so effective out of the jungle. The fact that he can farm himself a bottle, a set of boots, and a blink dagger at 10, 11 minutes. Why not just put him in the jungle? Let's give some emphasis to mid instead.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. With the recent change, Naga Siren we've been seeing her thrown in the middle lane a lot, instead of just traditionally, which was whenever you saw Naga Siren, it was that hard carry. Now that we've seen her being thrown in middle a little bit more often, it means there's a lot more versatility to the pickup. So when you draft like this and you grab her early, it doesn't necessarily lock you down with what your lanes are, like it used to be. So that's a really good point. Bat Rider, okay, Na'Vi, I don't know what it is picking up those carries early on, but Na'Vi picking up the Spectre as their second pick here. Apparently they're afraid that that's going to get banned out. They've been running Spectre lately, though.
Yeah, I mean, you see a pick like that, and the obvious question is, and there are just times whenever a team just does what the hell it wants and there's no 100% logical thought process to it. I mean, Poppy is one of the most cerebral drafters you're ever going to see, so please don't misconstrue that comment. But I think they could have gotten away with the Spectre pick later. Don't know that they needed her in second position. But, I mean, I guess, if you're a novice, you should go, you know what? We just want to run Spectre. We are really interested. Well, I'll tell you what. Check that. I think I can see why they would want that. With the Nature's Prophet available out of Virtus Pro, you run into this situation. I mean, VP banned the Keeper of the Light. And this kind of jives with that, too. Whenever you pick a Prophet, you don't just want the hero for the fact that he can jungle, he's versatile in his laning. It's the global presence. And if you really want to push that issue, if you really want to try to get the most out of that aspect of that hero, then you're going to want to try to take away heroes that can counter that. And Spectre is among those heroes, a hero who can split push, who can sit and farm, who can sit away from the fight, then just pop her ult and haunt into whatever aspect she chooses to get across the map. So seeing them ban out the keeper, maybe that's what Na'Vi was thinking. You know what? We just don't want they might not want Spectre able to come to fights at the drop of a hat, and they may end up banning her. So let's take her now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, they're just afraid of her being banned out in that second banning phase, which was coming up. So taking it, just having that safety, and really that means they're going to be lacking a little bit in really strong supports. Both teams will be, really. Both teams opting to ban out some of the supports that they do not want to see. Leshrac and Visage being taken away by Na'Vi, taken away with some of those really hard support heroes that do a lot of damage mixed with the Naga Siren. In lane, she can put out a lot of damage with that Riptide, and she's one of the few carries who has a lockdown of her own, much similar to Lifestealer, and the fact that you can lead with that ensnare, and that allows you to have heroes like Lina and Leshrac, those heroes that usually need a setup stun. You can have those as your supports instead, and that allows you to output a lot more damage early on. Disruptor picked up by Virtus Pro with his recent buff in that Lightning Strike, or excuse me, Thunder Strike. Honestly, he makes for a pretty potent carry nowadays. We're seeing him picked up a lot more, and with the positioning here, Spectre trying to come in with that ultimate, being sent away with that glimpse, could be very, very good pickup.
Oh yeah, love the Disruptor pickup. The way that he works with Naga Siren is extremely important as well. Naga's ult as a way to set up, as you had alluded to, a way to set up Disruptor's entire combination. Static Storm is just an absolutely devastating spell in two different ways, one of which is very important in the mid-game and one which remains relevant in the late game. I mean, the silence is, of course, always going to be good. There's never a time that that's going to be bad, no matter how late the game goes. But it can just output an immense amount of damage. And when you look at what Na'Vi's already put together, they're going to be very magic damage dependent, at least early on. We'll see what they want to pick up to round things out here. The Lone Druid is still available if they wanted to try and offlane the Druid. And tons of options in terms of damage dealers. I think Na'Vi's going to continue to show us kind of a curveball lineup here. They may go ahead and pick something moderately stable. But I think we're in for at least one more surprise pickup from Na'Vi with the one which remains relevant in the late game. I mean, the silence is, of course, always going to be good. There's never a time that that's going to be bad, no matter how late the game goes. But it can just output an immense amount of damage. And when you look at what Na'Vi's already put together, they're going to be very magic damage dependent, at least early on. We'll see what they want to pick up to round things out here. The Lone Druid is still available if they wanted to try and offlane the Druid. And tons of options in terms of damage dealers. I think Na'Vi's going to continue to show us kind of a curveball lineup here. They may go ahead and pick something moderately stable. I think we're in for at least one more surprise pickup from Na'Vi with the one-game lead and the fact that they already are putting together. I mean, Spectre and CM, not exactly the most common heroes you see anymore. But, you see that CM pick, it makes you wonder what really the game plan is going to be. She is one of the most effective heroes in the entire game, level 1 through 5. Her and Venomancer really can kind of lay claim to just being so strong, levels 1 through 3. And usually when you draft that CM because you want to get some work out of her very early on. Looks like we're going to have Dindy handling the puck out of mid.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The Crystal Maiden, also the buff that she received in her aura, just being able to get one level in that makes her, like you said, extremely powerful in the early game. Once you hit level 4 or 5, that's when Crystal Maiden really hits her stride and can just spam out those nukes and be really, really aggressive. Have to watch for positioning here. So far, Virtus Pro, they've got some very positioning dependent heroes. You've got Disruptor and Vengeful Spirit, both of whom are going to be able to stop the Bat Rider and the Spectre. Disruptor, he can hold his glimpse for waiting for the Spectre to ult in, and Vengeful Spirit is going to try and focus on swamping either the ally hero or the Bat Rider when he tries to blink in and grab somebody and force staff away. So they've got the supports to counter that. I question whether or not their laning phase is going to go as well as they hope, though. But it looks like both teams are going to go in for a defensive try, so they shouldn't be fine. They're just going to focus on pulling, getting in that extra experience, which both Disruptor and Vengeful Spirit really, really need. So if they can get some good pulls off, unfortunately they are in the dire, so they're at a slight disadvantage there. A little bit less experience from the jungle, but still, TA picked up once again, and no surprise that Na'Vi is going to land themselves a nice, heavy damage dealing support like Lina.
Yeah, the two sisters on the same team. Always gotta love to see that. Lina and Crystal Maiden, the way they work together is actually remarkably well. I mean, of course, you joke around about the lore, but the way that they work together just as a team. I mean, whenever you talk about the amount of damage they can pour out between the two whenever they do hook up, especially on a single target that could be Frostbitten, then you Nova, then you Light Strike Array as they're slowed and running away, then you Dragon Slave, then you Laguna Blade. I mean, it just gets remarkable how well those two heroes can work together. I remember way back before the International 2, or the International 2012, since it's rebranding, which I'm going to try to adjust my mode of thinking to. But anyway, always wondering why you didn't see more CM Lena games, where you didn't see these two heroes come together, because they've been designed pretty ingeniously to be very different from each other, but still offer the same sort of real mid-game punch in terms of magic damage and in terms of having a nice amount of lockdown that can be abused in conjunction with other heroes. But, Virtus Pro's lineup, again, when I look at it, you look at Navi's, it's not quite to the point it was last game when you had the Bounty Hunter, the Nyx Assassin, all of these really focused heroes in terms of their skill set and what they were able to give you. They do have a bit more flexibility and versatility, especially in terms of their initiation and the way that they can initiate fights with the reach and the range of a Puck and of a Bad Rider with his Blink Dagger. But Virtus Pro's lineup, again, if they're left to flourish, I feel like it's going to be a little bit too, it feels a little bit more well-rounded to me in terms of what they're going to be able to contribute and how they're going to be able to scale into that late-game phase. But anyway, we are going to be underway, so both teams look to be heading for the Radiant side jungle. And both teams really have some pretty nice punch if they want to try and have a little engagement here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would give the advantage personally to Navi here coming up, just because of the fact that Crystal Maiden, that slow, is so incredibly strong, and you have the ability to land a really good Light Strike array off of that. If you can combo maybe even just 2 or 3 heroes, that's pretty much guaranteeing that first blood fight. You have a lot of heroes that don't contribute too much early on. Furion, he's got these trees, that isn't really much. And then Disruptor, his Thunder Strike is strong, but it doesn't output enough damage early on. Over time, it obviously does some really good damage, but you need that initial punch to really be able to win those first blood engagements. So they're actually going to focus on autoing down this tree, and it looks like Virtus Pro, now that they've seen that there is a 5-man in the jungle, they're going to back off. They do not want to force that fight.
Yep, missing KSI, who is back at the base, hanging out, waiting to sprout some more trees, using the Hexapus, by the way, which the Hexapus is, the face is interesting. We'll say that about that. I need to get some Maximilian the Beetle. But anyway, a little bit of damage done. But the horn blows and we're underway while the lanes take shape. Let's see who's handling who. We'll have Puppy playing on our Crystal Maiden. Havost will be handling the Spectre. Puck, as anticipated, will be handled by Dindy there in mid. Kuroki going to be playing on the fiery redhead Lena, and Funnick taking the bat into the offlane. He's got one kitted out Bad Rider, man. That is an awesome-looking Bad Rider. The other side of the river, we got NS playing on the Disruptor. The Naga Siren will be handled by Illidan once again. We're going to have Nature's Prophet played by KSI, and he'll be setting up shop, and they're actually going to offensively tri-lane this, which is interesting, and it's something that I talked about a lot a few months ago, and it just kind of fell off. It looked like we were going to have a bit of a change, a potential change in the meta, when the Naga Siren was occasionally being played as a support, and just the strength of its snare is so often underrated. But now with the buff to Riptide, this actually is a very deadly tri-lane in terms of ways they're going to be able to pour damage on. And this is the big weakness in Spectre as well. This is why you still don't see Spectre picked all that often, despite the fact that she's an ultra hard carry late. You can just bully her in lane. She just takes so long to get going.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, typically Crystal Maiden and Lena, there's some very good. I mean, you've got 4 different nukes coming out from just those 2 heroes. Any other carry that was able to contribute anything to the team fight, and VP would not be able to aggro try like this. It would just be too hard, extremely dangerous to go up against this. But like you said, Spectre is very easy to harass down, especially I think this is going to be complete control lane. Riptide being able to harass the Spectre very, very easily. That huge AoE coming out from it is just so easy to do that. And then also Thunderstrike does a lot of damage at level 1. If he just wants to put that every once in a while on that Spectre, she's going to feel really unsafe trying to go up and farm being low health like that. So, meanwhile, middle though, Dendy's going to have a very hard time. Templar Assassin is sort of the classic lineup versus Puck. She's just so easy with that Refract, being able to just dodge a lot of damage here, but it looks like she's actually blown through all of her regen already. Well, Dendy, he had potions up and is able to keep up with the harassment. TA has to wait for the bottle to income.
And again, one of the big changes to TA, probably the biggest change to her recently, was the fact that Refraction was nerfed considerably. Just takes a bit more mana, a bit more difficult, especially whenever you're up against solid harassment, which a Puck, if nothing else, is going to give you. I mean, Puck has his weaknesses as well, but he's going to get his shots in that lane and be able to play up front and personal. Virtus Pro going to challenge the pull camp. Now this is where things can get chancy, and right there is why. Again, the way that these two heroes work together, the Lina and the CM, really, again, you don't want to, I'm not trying to put focus on the war at all. I mean, it's just, of course that plays into it. But, I've actually had this conversation with friends before. As you can tell, there was some love and care put into their design because they both serve that support role, that 4 or 5 position, what have you, however you want to do it. They both have very similar skill sets in a sense, but at the same time feel very different. But the way that they work together, with the Frostbite as a single target, with the AoE stun out of Lina, then you have nice damage with a slow on one, and then the Dragon Slave, and how the range that it actually has is a little bit longer than is often estimated. It's just the two heroes really, really do complement each other extremely well. And I've always wondered why we didn't see more of it in professional Dota whenever you had an early game-oriented lineup. That's probably my big concern for Na'Vi, is how they're going to transition from the early game to the late game. So they've got good late game in Spectre, they've got good early game in their supports, and they have great initiation with Puck and Bad Rider. But I can't help but feel that while that Spectre farms up, there's going to be a period of time when they're going to feel a little bit thin, especially once you see a BKB come out on the Naga Siren. If she does indeed get one, she might not. But with Refraction, with the mobility of the Prophet, there's going to be a period where I think VP can push the envelope. Wow.
Oh, I caught the tail end of that. I didn't expect what happened, but Dendi, his bottle flew in at just the right time and was able to turn around on that TA. I really feel that this is just a Dendi factor right here. He just won a Puck versus TA lane, and yes, the nerf really hurts TA bottom.
We're gonna have NS caught out. There's all those skills put together, and the stun was there as well. Virtus Pro ends up giving up a disruptor, no way to follow it up. Fortuitous Rune. Now they're going to ensnare Havost. They're going to try to follow it. Light Strike Array off the mark. The stun's there, and they will get Havost. Very good kill, and now here's the TPN from KSI. Does he have Sprout? He does have 1 point, and he actually missed it. But, well, I guess you could say he missed it. Really just blocking Kuro all the same. Getting a little cute with it, a little fancy, little finesse points. Nonetheless, VP brings it back to even, make it 2-2. 4 kills on the board in a 5-minute game.
Yeah, that was a really smart Sprout. She had 1 tango left, so if he had trapped her and she'd eaten the tree and gone through that little alleyway, he would have actually blocked his allies. Good glimpse. NS. Forcing Spectre to now run all the way back. That's going to be a lot of time lost for her. And supports are actually going to have to be forced to pick up some of that CS now.
And right now, Virtus Pro, and very important. And wow, is he going to get her again? Refraction's going to be used. He's going to stay right on her. He's bottling up in the meantime. And continuing to auto-attack. Looks like, yeah, he will be okay. That is Tame My Wild, by the way. Just running under Bracket's name, because, that's how the rescue stuff. But, at any rate, we haven't talked a whole lot about this top lane matchup, the Bad versus the Prophet. And this is just one of those situations where, so long as KSI is careful and doesn't allow himself to get too many stacks of sticky napalm, he should be fine. But the Bad is going to be more than fine. We can see that. He's near the top in CS with 24. And what you don't want to have, if you can help it, is a Bad Rider off to the good start.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be able to pick up that early blink tagger if they're not careful, and the earlier you grab that, the more your presence felt. Bottom, though.
Kuro engaged upon, ensnared. There's the follow-up magic missile. They will get her with the help of the Prophet ulti. Now Havost is in trouble. He's down to a quarter health. There's a glimpse, bringing her back. Beautifully struck by NS. Let's see if they can... Oh, they lost him. Looks like they just lost track of him. Now they're going to find him, and that's not your side of the jungle, Havost. He's going to be forced to dip into the river. In the meantime, here comes Tame, throws out the side trap, magic missile from the high ground, and the spectral dagger. Nice thought, but a little too slow on the trigger. Make it 4-2. Virtus Pro fighting back and battling back hard.
Yeah, that was pretty much perfect timing. Crystal Maiden was not there whatsoever. That's where their lineup really exceeds, is being able to pick off heroes one by one. This aggro try, well, just 3-on-3 fighting isn't necessarily the strongest. They have extremely good single target, and the positioning skill of Glimpse, obviously, being able to capitalize on even more kills once you secure that initial one. That was pretty much a perfect fight for them. So really well done. Unfortunately, it could have changed so much more if Puppy was actually there. But he was focused on pulling, and Virtus Pro recognized that.
Taking a look at where we are with CS, really the two highest CSers right now. We haven't talked a lot about this. Spectre's died a couple of times, so Ghost is just having to bail out. And now Funnick, last swing back KSI, really baited this beautifully, and they will be able to kill him for sure. Funnick makes it away with very little health. Funnick basically baited that out just by acting like he was too aggressive, playing too far forward, taking a lot of damage, and giving time for Hvost to rotate. But as of right now, Hvost has 10 CS at 7.5 minutes, so he had to do something, had to get out of that lane. You compare that to 32 for Naga, 31 for the TA, and KSI sitting at 21. Basically, they're one full hero's farm ahead as all the supports are way low as well.
Yeah, I mean, TA, she's getting some decent CS in the middle. It's so unfortunate she gave away that first kill to Dendi. Like, Dendi just gets such a lead from that because he's supposed to suffer early on due to the harassment of Sideblades, plus the fact that he can't really harass TA really hard because of refraction. Like, this is supposed to be an early winning lane for TA, and instead Dendi just cleaned it up, and it looks like they're going to be able to secure another kill here.
And TA gets coiled, silenced out as well, has refraction up, but with the entirety of Na'Vi in position, they make it look easy. Virtus Pro takes the tier 1 in the meantime. They will be able to rotate KSI back up the top in time to give a little bit of harassment to Hvost. Now, this is where, you know, at this point, Virtus Pro's got to feel very comfortable. I mean, we're 8.5 minutes in. They know they have the lead. It's about 2,000. The experience is actually in favor of Na'Vi, which has a bit to do with, as you said, that mid matchup. And there's going to be a magic missile on Puppy. And yeah, a little too far forward. Crystal Maiden, not the most mobile hero. Fun fact, Crystal Maiden is the slowest unit on the map anytime she's level 1. And but nonetheless, a little too far out, and Puppy made to pay. But Virtus Pro is going to have to feel a sense of urgency a little bit. I mean, Na'Vi has a great initiation and counter initiation, as we're going to see. There's the Siren, actually. Song of the Siren, locking Funnick down. All of Na'Vi pursuing them out, and at least one will get away. Funnick doesn't have his Blink Dagger yet.
Yeah, Dendi, he's once he has his Blink Dagger, he's going to be a big force. But I love how Virtus Pro, really good use of that Song of Siren, and in the end, oh, Lina, one of the slowest attack animations in the game, and she secures the deny on middle tower. Extremely well done by Kuroki. That is just so hard to hit a low attack damage hero like Lina, coupled with that slow attack animation. Extremely well done picking up that kill, and that denies a lot of gold. Virtus Pro was really relying on that. They've taken that bottom tier 1 tower, and with that trade-off at bottom, the Song of the Siren pretty much keeping Na'Vi from being able to go anywhere. A failed gank like that allowed them to take that middle tier 1 tower. From there, they were really going to start steamrolling, but that puts a little bit of a halt on that, though they're still going to be ahead about 2,500.
We're at 4 to 5, 9 kills on the board, and it's 9 minutes into the game. While we have this pause, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and joining us for the D2L. And I'm sure many of you have noticed, and we were a few minutes late getting rolling today, and this was part of it, the fact that we're rolling out a new approach. Same equipment, just a different way of going about streaming it out. And, of course, always looking for feedback. Please let us know. And I know that our good friend, the Capitalist, was a little low in game, or excuse me, not in game so much, but a little low on stream. That seems to have been sorted out, at least according to Conrad, the production guru. Yep, there's the thumbs up from behind the wall of monitors. Lets me know that everything seems to be okay. So, but yeah, feel free to tweet, guys. Feel free to let me know what you think. And you know, I'm really excited. I know it's been about a month. You know, it's hard to believe I've been in San Francisco a month now, give or take. But you know, we've had our ups, had our downs, and certainly had our problems, but we're slowly bringing things together. And, of course, we'll have some downtime coming up in just a couple of days as I get ready to head to DreamHack Summer. And really hope that if you guys are there, you'll come say hi because, yeah, I want to shake your hand, not the other way around. I want to let you guys know how thankful I am for the opportunity to be a part of that event. And, and Conrad, the production guru, will be joining me as well. So make sure you come say hi to him because he never gets any attention. He has no Twitter.
Yeah, it's always the guy behind the screen that does so much hard work, but like nobody knows who he is. Like it's really the diehard followers who follow you every single stream. They're like, oh yeah, I heard that name before. Oh yeah, okay, I know who that guy is now. But 90% of the people out there have no idea the amount of hard work those people put in. So just a shout out to all the production guys out there. Dendi, he's when this pause comes back out, He's in a little bit of trouble here.
He's under cover of an invis. He's fine.
He is. Okay. I was like, I remember the invis going off, but I was so focused on middle and that Kuroki being able to snag that deny, I forgot about what happened in bottom.
He's good, man. Just taking a peek, looking up the skirt, doing his thing. But while we do have a minute anyway, once again, thanks to you guys for being a part of today's broadcast and part of our past broadcast and hopefully a part of our future broadcast if we continue to earn your respect and viewership. But also make sure you follow our guest caster here today, the Capitalist. Where can they find more information about you, my friend?
You guys can find me over at Twitter at Dota Capitalist and Twitch TV/Dota Capitalist as well. Trying to work on getting that following over there on my Twitch stream, just because of the fact that I will eventually go back to main casting. Though I am really enjoying. I never imagined myself a co-caster. So when I first co-casted with Toby, it went really poorly. I could not control my main casting tendencies. I wanted to call that action. It was so hard to stifle that. But I've really been enjoying it. Both you and Toby, I've had a really good time so far. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And shout out to everybody who's already following me, who's already joining my streams and that sort of thing. I really appreciate you guys supporting me where you can. It means a lot.
There you go. Make sure you check him out on Twitter and on Twitch as well. And since we're name dropping, how about you check me out as well? You can find me at AC at AYESEE and on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/ACTV. Links to my various other media outlets, Facebook, YouTube. The whole shebang, the whole kit and caboodle you can find on ACTV. But hopefully we'll be able to get back underway momentarily. It always gets a little worrisome whenever you have an extended pause like this, because usually if it's just a little temporary issue, it's resolved within a minute or two. This is the kind of, looks like Havo said 1 or 2 minutes. So don't think it's going to be too big of a problem. Coming up tomorrow, we'll, of course, be back with another broadcast. Still have one more best of 3 left today, regardless of if this ends up being our final game of this series or if we do end up going to a Game 3, which, looking at the gold and the experience graphs, the gold at the very least is possible. Funnick has rejoined. But, since with Funnick back in, we'll focus back on this game. Na'Vi is showing us they've already shown us the weaknesses and the strengths of their lineup. Whenever they get the chance to initiate on their terms with a good coil, with the lasso, and again, just the way that Crystal Maiden and Lena work together, just an unbelievable myriad of spells they can pour out to do single target, do multi-target damage and stun, etc. That's where their lineup shines. But again, when I look at Virtus Pro's lineup, the TA she's not being shut down as hard as she was in game number 1, as an example. She will be a factor at some point. And wow, they're going to go ahead and silence and engage her. Coil going to catch our Venge, and she's going to be cleaned up. Illidan can do nothing but run away, but Na'Vi makes it 5-5.
I'm not entirely sure what the plan was there. She already had, I was going to mention, these really aggressive wards. I gotta love this, just because of the fact this allows Illidan to be able to farm aggressively and have that heads up, so he can prepare his Song of the Siren if they come and gank him. Unfortunately, that Invis was able to spy out that Vengeful Spirit walking into the jungle alone. But Disruptor might get caught up by Batrider here.
Funnick tosses the Flame Break, bounces him more to the side than anything else. Doesn't have his Blink Dagger yet, and really wanted it. He is going to be stunned by the Magic Missile. There's the Haunt. And let's see what they want to do. Yep, they're going to try to catch Illidan. Illidan went in, and looks like, that's just a flat-out mistake. No idea what the plan was. And Virtus Pro's just going to... Oh, beautiful Light Strike Array. Caught 2. They managed to clean one up with the Laguna Blade. Now they're pursuing them out under the tower. NS is in trouble. He's going to drop. Only 2 still standing. Buyback from Naga Siren at 10.5 minutes in. And Virtus Pro, just, again, kind of bizarre play there. Like, Illidan, I didn't even see it, but I heard the ensnare. He basically ensnared a target when he had to know the majority of Na'Vi was on the way, so he got cleaned up. Then the rest of them charged forward to try and save a dead body, basically. I mean, he was dead to rights in the side shop. They ended up giving a few more away as well. Nonetheless, Na'Vi looking strong in the early phase, make it 8-6 at just 11 minutes in.
Yeah, really good aggression by Na'Vi. They knew they needed the numbers there. Song of Siren was down. Unfortunately, just Virtus Pro was not able to foresee that massive numbers of ganks. They were letting the Disruptor sit there, waiting for the Batrider to jump on Naga Siren, any sort of jump, and Disruptor was going to be able to stop that with a good glimpse, but I don't know, they just didn't foresee the amount of numbers that Na'Vi was going to be bringing to that team fight and was able to clean up quite a number of kills there. So really well done by Na'Vi, and once again, Spectre proves to be a very useful carry in the fact that she was just content with farming, comes in, picks up an extra couple of kills.
I'll tell you what I really like about what Na'Vi's doing, and this kind of comes around to what I was talking about before we had that pause, is their lineup you can just look and feel that they're going to be lacking damage at a certain stage of the game. So what they need to do is capitalize on their strengths when they can. That's not, I mean, and if they do well enough, they'll free Spectre up enough that that stage will never come. But whenever you're so reliant on predominantly magic damage coming out of Puck, coming out of Crystal Maiden, Lena, and the Bat Rider, like, that gets you by in the early game. Once you get up to 20, 25, 30 minutes, that starts to fall off naturally, especially against a lineup like what Virtus Pro has. It is a fairly naturally survivable lineup with the TA and the Naga Siren, and just by virtue of how their kits feel. As the game plays out. But the fact that, you know, they're abusing their initiation advantage. They're abusing the fact that in an AoE, they can just run over top of VP right now. And we're beginning to see, I mean, they haven't really broken this apart. Even though they're beginning to occupy mid a bit more than the Radiant jungle, they're still sticking 3 and 4 together and just letting hOlyhexOr do his thing. And yeah, I mean, so long as they continue to play like this, Virtus Pro is going to have to really feel pressured to execute and get a team fight under their belt. Otherwise, Na'Vi is going to be able to just position themselves for a potential mid-game win for the second game in a row. Now we're going to see them trade Tier 1s as the Tier 1 mid and Tier 1 top will be glyphed. Looks like, don't know there'll be much of a contention. Yeah, there's the glyph on the Tier 1 top. And here comes the TP, so looks like they should be able to get one for free.
Yeah, good job by Virtus Pro. Pushing in that top tower, they need to take the last of the Tier 1 towers. Kind of limit Spectre's ability to farm. You know, she really needs to stay on her side of the map as much as possible, because while that ultimate, and she does have a lot of survivability, the Bat Rider, or excuse me, the Disruptor and the Furion mix, they've got some really good positioning abilities to lock down that Spectre when she's out too far, and they could easily clean her up. So if they can limit the map control that Na'Vi has, hOlyhexOr is going to be feeling, you know, a little bit scared when he goes out too far to farm. And you're going to probably see him just bounce from lane to lane to lane and just try and keep up farming as close to his tier 2s as possible. That way he has the support of the rest of his teammates being able to teleport in. Because while they are 4-manning everywhere else, that leaves hOlyhexOr open to some potential smoke ganks from VP.
Well, the thing is, you know, smoke gank, yeah, you're exactly right about that. But I mean, when you have the global presence of a Prophet anyway, I mean, it's just, he's a +1 everywhere. So a smoke gank can literally be just one person smoking, and depending on how they wanted to do it. When you look at the GPM, you can see, and this is kind of one of the reasons I was a little worried for Na'Vi, especially with Spectre getting off to such a poor start. 3 of the top 4 in terms of GPM going the way of Na'Vi right now, excuse me, Virtus Pro, with only Puck near the top. And Puck, as much as you want him to have his core, is usually not the person you want to be the highest profile farmer on the team, even if it is Dindy. But speaking of farm, Bat does complete his blink. Now, this is where this is going to be crucial. About 15 minutes in, this is I talk all the time about this phase of the game, where it's the transition phase, really, from early game to mid game. And with a lineup like Na'Vi has, this is going to be crucial for them. They have 2 mobility items. The Blink Dagger's done on Puck and on Phonic now. This is when they need to get the majority of their work done to position hOlyhexOr to be ahead in levels and ahead in gold once we get into the later stages of the mid game. If he's not ahead, that's when VP, I feel, is going to be able to, on the back of a Nature's Prophet who already has his Midas in phase, he's already got 1,500 gold in the bank. The Naga is not underfarmed at all. Here comes that smoke, by the way. But that's when this lineup can really capitalize on things. And Phonic's just going to be caught. And he manages to blink away from the insta there. Very quick reaction. And Na'Vi immediately collapsing on bottom now.
Yeah, well done. Really good reaction. That spares them a lot of grief. I think they were looking for the Spectre there, but Bat Rider, he's able to farm that jungle, so why not? He's kind of acting as sort of a buffer between the rest of the ganks, those sort of smoke ganks, and his Spectre, being able to just farm up in the jungle the same way he can in lane, and still ensure Spectre a little bit of security. So now, they can group up as a 4-man crew. They know VP, they're not going to be going for that again. Well, as I say that, Illidan is actually going solo bottom.
Yep, and this is what I was talking about. Like, this is, if he wants to ensnare and just open things up, just go into farm right now. Na'Vi, in the meantime, looked like they were ready to take a fight. They had 4. And, you know, this, again, it's a difference between damages and the mix they have, or the lack of one if you're Na'Vi. I mean, you are just completely reliant on magical damage for everything at this stage. And it's an interesting dynamic, really. The way that these two teams feel, but Na'Vi taking their time and not overcommitting, very important with this lineup. You know, usually when you have lineups that are this magic damage dependent, levels become the really important factor early on. We're kind of getting away from that now as we close in on that 20-minute mark. But when you look at the experience, this is why Na'Vi feels like they're ahead. I mean, when you look at the gold, VP's still ahead there. But Na'Vi feels so strong right now because of the fact that they are ahead in experience, they are ahead in levels, and they just have a lineup that's going to benefit a lot from that at this stage of the game.
Yeah, this is a little interesting that Spectre, she's actually going for a blade mail, so she's not going for any sort of aggressive, any sort of build into a Radiance or Diffusal, anything like that, which I was expecting out of her. I was expecting an early Diffusal and then them trying to force fights. Oh,
there's the buyback from Funnick. Beautiful coil, caught 3, Waning Rift got 2. Frostbite gonna slow down Illidan and the ulti. The full channel as Crystal Maiden drops the hail, and TA wanders right into a lasso. What was the plan there, Tame? Walked into a lost fight. I don't care how low they were. You don't walk into a group of 3 heroes by yourself and just made a 3-man loss into a 4-man loss there, basically. But yeah, I had the camera there watching that to see. I mean, it was obvious they were going to get Funnick, but the immediate haunt coming out of Havost, and this right here, by the way, I was going to expand on this just because I think I've seen Havost play Spectre 3 times in the last month and a half, and every time it's been the same build. Getting up the blade mail very early on, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him. I probably should take the time to ask. It feels like he does that because he wants to fight earlier than Spectre normally does. He wants to have the ability to haunt in and to just be this big walking damage sponge that they have to account for. And when they do try to account for him, he pops the blade mail and gets the job done. Nonetheless, big win there. Na'Vi
bottom.
Up quite a bit. Havost being pursued out and actually going to be able to give him the old okie doke. Blade mail is done. Here comes the rest of Na'Vi, though, and we may have another fight. Funnick has lasso up right now. And Virtus Pro retreating back to the east. Looks like they won't make it back to safety. But 12-8, 20 kills on the board, 18 minutes in. Na'Vi looking solid.
Yeah, I actually, the more I look at this, mainly because it's skill build, right? So he got 2 levels now in Dispersion, his latest level, but he went for early Desolate, which with that blade mail will allow him to not be targeted a little bit, and if they do, they're going to pay for it. And so he's just going to be able to run around with that extra Desolate damage, which is actually a lot. I mean, 65 extra damage at level 4, that is huge in those auto attacks. So I have to wonder, though, Virtus Pro, I mean, they seem to be forcing a lot of these fights that I don't think they really necessarily need to. Na'Vi is still very, very strong, and some of these supports are going to drop off pretty soon here.
KSI going to be able to dodge the coil. Sentry goes down, but the bonus move speed from Shadow Blade is good. I actually agree with you completely. And that's kind of what I've been harping on for the last 10 minutes or so, is the fact that Na'Vi's lineup, is going to have this Valley. And VP should be able to just play calmly, get up some key items. I mean, we actually see, and this is one of the more bizarre, well, bizarre is not the right word. There are, of course, a multitude of ways to build a T8. They're going to get a free Roshi as Na'Vi really not in a position to challenge this. But going with treads, drums, no blink, and straight to BKB. I don't mind that at all, but the mobility really is just lacking in a lot of ways. Even with it, usually you at least see phase coming. But, in Templar Assassin, I mean, so far, she's 2 and 3, so that's not where you want a TA at this stage of the game. She's supposed to be a mid-game monster, and so far, she's just kind of been there to contribute a little bit of DPS and some armor.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate that they have, especially the Batrider is such a huge problem, but her refraction is just getting burned through so quickly that it makes her very, very squishy. Fortunately, she's going to be able to rely on the Disruptor and the Naga Siren to be able to lock down people, so she won't necessarily have to blink in. But forcing these fights before they have those items, I kind of question this. I think Na'Vi can really make a good fight here. I mean, they still have the Song of Siren to fall back on. But if they're not careful, Funnick might be able to pick him off. He does have that blink dagger.
I'm actually surprised Funnick is. Funnick is not known as a player who shies away from aggression. He's usually the guy who pulls the trigger quickly. Havost manages to get a tier 1. Mass reactions now. And Na'Vi obviously can't get there. There's a glimpse back, so Havost will end up dead. Going to lose about 450 gold there with that death. So he does manage to come out slightly ahead as he did get the tower. Now Funnick has taken to the skies. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to chase down VP. But I actually agree with you completely. That Aegis I thought was going to be a 10 minutes of farm item. That safety Aegis that you buy, stick on your carry, and you just go, okay, let's farm for you. But Virtus Pro losing a tower, but getting a carry. Take a look at the gold graph. The gold's back in their favor. It went up in Na'Vi's favor for the first time in 20 minutes moments ago. The experience is actually back in favor of VP. Now a good swap onto Funnick. And hanging around for just a little bit too long. Virtus Pro closing that gap in kills, 12-10.
Yeah, finally, Disruptor has Glimpse maxed out, so at any point in time, a Batrider's just going to have such a hard time being able to jump those heroes. But they were able to pick off. They were able to pick off Havost and his Spectre, but still, I was expecting them to like almost force, like hardcore force a fight at bottom, just because of the fact they pretty much let Havost pick up tier 1. That's really bad. They got the kill, yes, but Na'Vi, they haven't really been expecting you to get towers. The last bad team fight they had, Na'Vi took their very first tower, and that was at middle. Now they've taken a second one. That's a lot of gold for them to be able to pick up, just because I don't think Na'Vi, they don't have any sort of push lineup. They have a ganking lineup, and they have some early team fight, but they're all focused around Spectre and getting her farm. So dropping those towers is just extra gold that Na'Vi was not really planning for, I feel.
And once again, Virtus Pro grouping up. The Naga Siren with 3,000 gold in the bank. Can't help but wonder what she wants here. We could go with the old school Lincoln Sphere build. This feels like it could be a Radiance game. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but obviously it has its strengths and its own weaknesses. Virtus Pro going to think about trying to push here. A lot of AoE to help shut that down. And they are going to go ahead and rush it down. And really, Na'Vi just not feeling comfortable at this stage, trying to take a fight against Virtus Pro, even with Havost just continuing to farm up. And I really don't mind this choice all that much out of Na'Vi, because this is, again, the timeline of where I think they want their lineup to be able to execute. They did a lot of work early on when they knew they could get away with it. Now is when all of that damage, the magic damage and so on, is beginning to fall off a little bit. They still have great initiation, just not a whole lot to follow it up, other than just throwing out these mass wads of magic damage and spell damage. So they're just kind of playing it easy. They are going to smoke up and trying to make things happen on an individual basis, but just buying time for Havost to farm up, I think, is the right call, and I think they're going to benefit a whole lot from it.
Yeah. Now that they have the BKB up on Templar Assassin, I feel top.
Yep. Prophet a good pick off, and the Han actually used, and they're going to look for another target. There's the Song of the Siren. And they are grouped up pretty badly here. There's just no way to do anything about it, as down at bottom we see Havost actually will be cleaned up. In the meantime, there's a coil that caught too. Na'Vi still trying to get the job done. Silences out. KSI will be cleaned up as Puppey hits the ulti. Puppey's on a killing spree, and now we have the ensnare out. Kuroki in trouble. He's going to be cleaned up by the TA. Funnick, Puppey, and Dindy trying to retreat. 2 for 2 so far. They did lose Havost in the midst of that. Very damaging loss for them. Puppey's going to make it a triple kill, going the way of Tame My Wild. So Na'Vi trying to play aggressive there. Probably one of those situations when they should have just taken what they were given and fallen back. Instead, they hung around. And Virtus Pro able to get some payback. That's going to be the BKB done on TA as well.
Yeah, like any other situation, it'd be the right idea to try and force a fight at top while you know that you've got some heroes that are going to be trying to finish off their items, like TA, who was farming the bottom area and trying to pick up that BKB, was at Ancients when that first fight happened. It's just that Aegis is a really a long team fight delay, right? You kill that hero, and sometimes you stick around and try and kill him again. You mix that with a Naga Siren ultimate, and that just gives VP so much time to get their heroes near there. They had a tier 2 they could teleport to. All around, I think it was just a little too close to VP's base to be able to force that fight. They had so much opportunity to be able to set up that team fight and get a lot of early kills. Even though they lost the Aegis, it's definitely worth it. Now you've got Diffusal picked up on Naga Siren. She's going to be going towards that Heart next. It at least has a casual bit booster, which really helps out the tankiness of her mirror images. So that's going to be really important. I'm kind of surprised, but it looks like they're going to try and pick up a Havost here.
Down at bottom, going to go for it. There's the Static Storm. And all over but the Crying. And they may be initiated upon. Illidan will be lassoed back. No tower there. There's going to be the glimpse that's sucking him back, and the Call of the Siren. Illidan doesn't have a TP. Nowhere to go. KSI is going to show up, though, and Funnick will be picked off, so buying time for the rest of the team to respond. And Na'Vi, I mean, really, they would have had the TP back to the bottom tier 3, so they didn't bother. They end up losing, too. And Virtus Pro looks like they might want to challenge for a tier 3 here. They're going to go ahead and rush the steps. With the Bat and Spectre down, it's really tough for the remaining 3 to do anything about this other than throw some spells. And Kuro going to be swapped. Ghost Scepter helps a bit. Nice silence, though. And we are going to see a coil, but unfortunately, again, no follow-up. Not having Spectre, not having the Bat. And remember what I was talking about? The fact that Na'Vi's lineup was going to have this Valley period? And I would say we're pretty deeply ingrained into it now. And Dindy actually does manage to get another kill jaunts to the high ground. Here comes hOlyhexOr fresh back, respawned in. They do manage to get Dindy, and hOlyhexOr's going to be able to get at least one return kill. Will make it 2. And now Puppey still being pursued. The BKB finally used by Tane. And just going to try to TP away. Lasso, though, goes through Magic Community, so no luck for him. Virtus Pro got the tier 3, but it ends up feeding back a full team afterward. So as well as that was done, and Na'Vi, I mean, just waiting at the right time, more or less, VP waited a little too long to withdraw, and it ended up costing them. After all said and done, we can see the gold's actually still way in their favor, even after feeding back 5, but the experience hovering right around 0.
Yeah, that was a really good initiation by Dendy, seeing that opportunity, pretty much sacrificing his life. Just he tried to be as disruptive as possible and survive as long as possible for the rest of his team to be able to follow up, and that was just beautifully done. hOlyhexOr with that ultimate, just reviving, being able to ult and come in, just tearing apart. So they were able to make do with, even though they lost the tier 3, and that's going to leave them really, really open for this next push. VP, they might wait for Aegis. That's going to be up in just a couple minutes here, so they might wait for that before they go for the next push. But that's going to be pretty much a game changer. That's going to be where we determine whether or not Na'Vi is going to be able to push this out and go into the mid to late game and force fights, or if they have to play defensive.
hOlyhexOr baited into this really badly. Does end up getting a kill if they catch up with him, which they will not, so that's worth it for him. That was a pretty obvious bait, I think. Anyway, Na'Vi gonna end up getting, nope, never mind. Kuro gonna use the Ghost Scepter, pops the Laguna Blade. Illidan is down to about a quarter health. Do they have enough to finish him off? They don't. KSI went for a Sprout. Kuro trying to find a way out. Will find a way back to the base, just going back in a body bag. And now the reinitiation. There's a silence. Illidan continues to run. Will be coiled down along with 2. And Funnick and Dindy forced to withdraw. There's the Force Staff from Funnick as TA pursues him, pops her BKB. In the meantime, looks like they will end up getting the Venge on the back of the fight. TA now forced to run again. Actually uses a drum charge. hOlyhexOr right on her tail. He's moving quickly with those phase books. Side trap slows him down just a bit. And Dindy not done yet. Doesn't have a coil to spin. Does have a waning rift if he wants it. But with the Spectral Dagger trail giving hOlyhexOr pretty good chance to pursue, this is just going to be one of those pursuits that goes a while. They do wisely pull back, realizing that rushing uphill into the black, probably not the right call.
Yeah, that was exactly what Na'Vi needed. Unfortunately, it looks like hOlyhexOr might get caught out here, but I think he should be fine.
With that Blade Mail, he is able to just be a meanie and chase them down. Yeah, he's actually going to go for this. There's no help coming. All the towers are still up, so this is still very chancy. hOlyhexOr's going to get a kill along with Dindy. And, wow, they might, yeah, TA it's going to be close. And Refraction gone now. Yeah, there it is. They got it. hOlyhexOr might end up dead. There's the ulti from Puppey, though. And the Venge eating a lot of the damage. No follow-up. There's a swap on the Puppey, so they will be able to get at least one return kill. hOlyhexOr did manage to make it away there, as did Dindy, which is about as an important a factor as anything. But Na'Vi now leading by 5 kills, make it 26-21. 5,000 gold remains the advantage for VP. The experience, though, quite handily in favor of Na'Vi. But one thing I wanted to talk about, we've just been kind of action-packed. I mean, we've got 47 kills in a 30-minute game, so a very busy game. They are going with mass armor reduction. There's a medallion out on Venge. She has the Vengeance, not the Vengeance armor, but the Wave of Terror for armor reduction. And then they of course, have Meld out of the TA. So not only does it help them do quick Roshans, as we're seeing, it's really effective at bringing down Spectre, even if she does tank it.
Roshan has fallen to the ground.
And it just feels like VP, I think they had too many bad fights here. I don't think they had this time where Spectre has not picked up a big item. Now he's going to be able to pick up Radiance before they can push in bottom. But there was this valley that you were talking about where they took the tier 3, and it was a bad fight for them after that, but they still were able to group up and force another fight at bottom, I feel, and potentially take a Rax while Spectre was a big item down. Now, that isn't the case. Now, I think Na'Vi has a huge advantage in these team fights. Just a really bad decision-making by NS and Tane trying to go for that pick-off on Spectre, not realizing how powerful she was with that Blade Mail, with the movement speed she gets from Drums, Yasha, and FaZe. And they might have just thrown away their potential to take a Rax.
Well, a big part of this, and back to that concept of the Valley that Na'Vi's lineup was inherently going to have built into it, just because they had 4 heroes that were, I mean, Puck and Bat are good all game. But you had two heroes in the Lina and the Crystal Maiden that were so focused on early, then the one of the ultimate late game heroes in Spectre. That Valley, a big part of coming out of that for Na'Vi, survivability on their supports and getting some more utility on their heroes. Scythe of Ice done on Dindy, huge item for him. The Blink Dagger came out. The Force Staff is up on the bat and has been for some time. That's why Na'Vi's team all of a sudden feels so much more potent again. Speaking of Scythe of Ice, we'll have one out on Prophet. KSI, this game has, he's been a factor, but he's not as big a factor as you usually want your Prophet to be. I haven't really felt a huge global presence for him. I haven't felt that overarching, Prophet's in every lane that's not occupied. He's pushing towers, and granted, a part of that is they were so good at pushing towers early, pushing in groups of 2 and 3. But, sitting at 3, 6, and 13, TA really did come into her own as we knew she would. But this is where she's going to start to feel a little less potent. She's still going to do damage. But again, Na'Vi with all of the items, the Ghost Scepter on Lina, for example, all of these items, and just look how tanky Puppy is. 1,500 health on a Crystal Maiden with 2 bracers and an Ogre Club, and he's going to need every bit of it. But here in mid, the tier 1, under assault, Coil going to catch 3, didn't get 4, BKB is up, and they're going to come in. They're going to pop the Song of the Siren. And Avost, right at the edge of this, has his Radiance up, and Dindy is going to be able to phase shift out. There's going to be a last hit that grabs Tame My Wild. We're going to see one drop, and the follow-up Laguna Blade secures another kill, and now Illidan being burned to death by Havost. Couple of auto attacks. That'll be the Aegis, and Na'Vi going to be in great position to just make this a huge win. And tell you who wasn't there. Was just talking about him. I just have not felt KSI in this game, and right there's a good example of it. This was not a part of the fight, needed to be there, was not quick enough to get there to help out. Don't blame him not going in, because it would have been another dead body if he had. But, again, I just have not felt the influence of this Prophet pick at all.
Yeah, that was definitely one of those fights where you can't, against a team like Na'Vi, especially with Puck and Batrider, those two heroes have a lot of mobility. You can't just pop the Naga Siren ultimate and run away. That had to be a mass teleport section there. And unfortunately, nobody had teleports except for the Templar Assassin. So that was just a really, really unfortunate fight for them. And I think they just had to stand and fight there, have KSA come in. And that was the only way, abusing the Aegis, and hopefully you can win something, because otherwise Na'Vi is going to be able to pick you off.
Well, it's reached that point now. There's just, anytime there's a Spectre on the board, she goes from being this limp noodle slinging, really crappy lane presence hero to, oh, by the way, hold on, KSI, just gonna, dead. What else can you contribute? He's just dead. Yeah. And there you go. But sometimes it's just, I can't get excited. It's like, nope, he's in the shop, he's dead. But, but
he just stood there, too. He was like, I'm not even gonna auto-attack. This isn't even worth it.
Hold position, please. But anyway, yeah, there just comes a point when there's a Spectre on the board where you go, oh, by the way, my inventory's full, and you lose them. And that's kind of how it's beginning to feel. He's gone actually S and Y, which I think is a pretty ingenious pickup whenever you look at the way that VP is playing and what they're really relying on with the Shadow Blade on the Prophet, the Yasha build on TA, wants to be able to chase these heroes down, especially with Spectral Dagger up, so on and so forth. But, they're going to go for a kill here. This could end up being very good or very bad. He is going to be ensnared. There's the immediate silence. Very tanky. Pops the blade mail. And there's the sleep from Illidan. And, yeah, they just ended up getting a kill there, actually. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, the way that happened, because there was nobody else there. Havost blade mailed through the Static Storm. And then I'm pretty sure a ranged creep. I'm pretty sure it was actually this little catapult here, because it was just on the periphery of my vision. Actually got the killing blow after he killed himself on the blade mail.
Yep, that was purely dispersion, blade mail, and radiance. That was pure AoE that killed him with a catapult last hit.
And here we go. Funnick gonna grab himself an Naga Siren. Brings him back. Blade mail up again. And see you back at home, Naga. The worm has turned. And yeah. This is not looking good for VP. I think we're both in agreement. We've beat this horse to the point that it's beyond dead. At this point, it's a puddle in the grass. But Virtus Pro had their opening. I just think they missed their timing window.
Yeah, just a lot of little bad fights. A lot of good plays by Na'Vi, capitalizing on some misplays by Virtus Pro, getting as many kills as possible. KSI going to go down once again.
Yep. And that was actually a good play by Puppy, getting the frostbite off just in time to cancel his TP. Rage buyback. I'm not going to say that. That's what if it were a pub, that's what I would say. In the meantime, Havocious gets another kill somewhere. Looks like, yeah, he's just diving hard. And trapped in, hOlyhexOr just freaking out. Does end up losing quite a lot of gold there, by the way, since he was beyond godlike. He is going to buy back as well. So, don't know that was necessary, hOlyhexOr, but whatever. I mean, at this point, it's just kind of out of control. The gold's actually closer than you would think. Laguna Blade and KSI dies again, so he's died 3 times in about the last 5 minutes. Light Striker Ray locks down Illidan. They will get Kuro behind the tower, but Dindy able to escape via his various crafty methods. 38-23. We got 61 kills on the board in a 38-minute game. And the funny thing is, the gold's actually really close. It's really near the Meridian. The experience, though, quite large in favor of Na'Vi, currently leading 20,000.
Yeah, we're at this point where Virtus Pro, they have to take this pretty late. They have to survive for another 10 to 15 minutes for Templar Assassin to get in some items. Naga Siren's going to get stronger over time, obviously, and that's going to be really important. Even the small heroes, Vengeful Spirit and Disruptor, are really strong in the late game. Vengeful Spirit especially with that aura and the minus armor she gives, even the swap. Is very good at being able to save heroes. They're obviously going to be at a huge disadvantage versus this Spectre, but I think this is a time for Na'Vi to push this fight, because anything can happen in the late game, and especially they've got Naga Siren, they've got some really good, they've got a good carry and some really good semi-carries, with all around some good late game supports. They can win a team fight late game, and, you know, with buybacks on cooldown, that sort of thing, you could easily see just a really bad team fight, a couple of bad team fights from Na'Vi, and VP can come back and win this and take a rack. So I think Na'Vi needs to maybe finish off the last couple of items that they're looking for. Vlad's is actually picked up by Dendy to help out that Spectre. That's a good pickup.
A lot of mobility items coming out of it. Well, I shouldn't say mobility, survivability. BKB up. The BKB is coming out all over the place. Puppey actually grabbed one of his own. We see one's up on Venge, Heart done on Naga. Yule's Scepter done on the Bad Rider just to get... I mean, the Bad Rider has a Yule's and a Ghost Scepter and a Force Staff and a Blink Dagger. He's going to be able to pull back a TA into the wrong side of the jungle, at least if you're the TA shoes. Now Dindy hoping to clean it up. BKB was activated. Puppey's there, and looks like they thought about potentially going for this, and he's actually tanking through this quite well. Finally, they bring him down.
Enough for you.
But... yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. This is a game VP can still win. They're just going to have to go very late and still need a little bit of luck just because of how hard the Spectre carries. And hOlyhexOr will end up dropping again. They might re-engage. Yep, there's the swap. So they get Funix, swap back out. He's going to Force Staff, has his Yules if he wants to use it, and will do so. He'll come back to Earth and not quite make it away. They end up feeding 2 in exchange for 2. There's a Scythe of Ice, and Dindy just going to go for it. Oh, nice Scythe of Ice from KSI to bail his buddy out. Naga re-engages. He phase shifts away and going to hold on for a minute. Actually fades back inside of the trees. Now the slow. And the Laguna Blade's actually going to catch KSI from the back. Kuro, this is just the unending fight. They get KSI. Dindy's still alive by some miracle. Kuro going to be slowed down by the defusal. And he's cleaned up. That's 3 for 3. Let's see if this is going to continue. Dindy phase shifts, will jump, and then blink. Had some help on the way, but Puppey really in no shape to fight. So make it 41-26, 67 kills in a 40-minute game. The gold still hovering below 2,500 in favor of Na'Vi. The experience even coming down just a smidge.
A couple of really big things about that team fight. That was really, really smart by Dendy to force that. He almost killed the Naga Siren, which was huge, but even not killing the Naga Siren is really, really important because you notice hOlyhexOr, he used that buyback earlier you were talking about. It's on cooldown still for another 2 minutes. So they delayed a potential VP healing up and pushing in and forcing a fight with hOlyhexOr still on that death timer. He delayed that long enough. For now, they're going to be able to pick up Roshan, yes, but they won't be able to threaten Arax or anything while hOlyhexOr is down. He's about to come back up. So also, Illidan, extremely good use of Diffusal quite a few times there to stop Ghost Scepters.
And again, I mean, at this point, in Na'Vi, you know, now it's kind of the same situation we had earlier, but opposite. Na'Vi begins to feel like they really need to get the job done soon. They seemed like they were running away with the game earlier on, but they've just given back too much. They've given back a couple of ugly fights. They gave hOlyhexOr's play has been a little questionable a couple of times. That buyback was completely unnecessary. He did nothing but go farm with it. And, you know, that set him back. There's a Scepter done on Lena, so she's going to have Laguna Blade ready and on call. She's level 16, so it will be level 3 Laguna Blade. which is kind of silly. 1,200 damage on an absurdly low cooldown. But, you know, it's magic damage. Again, BKB's everywhere. TA's got one. I'm actually surprised Profin might end up getting himself one. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. He's not far from it now. Naga just tanked up. No BKB for her. And the mech's still not done for poor NS. He's been working on that item the whole freaking game.
Yeah, it's almost to a point where it would have been better to Vengeful Spirit to pick it up. But she's opting... she can actually do quite a bit of damage in the late game because she gives herself that Vengeance Aura. She's already building towards sort of semi-carry items. She's got the BKB, now a Yasha to help out with some of that damage. They're going to go all in on this push, and if they can force a bad fight, I think that buyback... nope, the buyback is about to come back from Havos. But he's actually low on gold. So, Na'Vi, if they lose this fight, this could be VP taking the game.
They're going to glyph it. There's Funnick. Funnick looking for a target, didn't find one. And he's going to be glimpsed back, actually, so he can't be a part of the fight. That's going to be a lost Rax for free. And just a bizarre sequence of events is Na'Vi, they take a tower, trade a set of Rax away to do it. And, I mean, they left Dindy at top. Dindy didn't have a TP. He couldn't have come home. Same thing with Havost. Just walking around naked. Don't have teleports. And it cost them a Rax for nothing but just simple stuff.
Yeah. Honestly, that would have been a really scary fight for them as well. If they had lost that with Havos not having the gold for a buyback, now he does. But early on, he didn't, and that would have been pretty crucial. So, yeah, that was really silly, loss of Rax. Funnick as well, teleporting in, but not waiting that 5 seconds. He has to surround for 5 seconds until Glimpse can no longer send him back. So he just has to stay out of vision at that point. But unfortunately, he tried to jump in a little too early, tried to defend his Rax, which were completely naked. And there was just no way for them to be able to defend that Rax, unfortunately. All because of positioning. You know, if they'd been able to teleport back earlier and gotten themselves set up, maybe they could have defended. But honestly, between Cheese and Aegis and all those sort of things, it might have been better that Na'Vi just lost to Rax and didn't force a fight.
Virtus Pro moving through the Radiant jungle. They're going to look to find a target, and they're going to have a chance to get Havos there. He's scythed out. His team is nowhere near. And Havos standing in the dark. I mean, he popped his blade mail, but with no reaction, it just doesn't matter. Now they're going to try to come back in. There's the coil. And Illidan using the Song of the Siren. Havos with his BK pop. There's actually a swap onto him. And they're going on to the Venge. She used her BKB as well. Funnick looking for a target, as is Dindy. But Havos managing to get a couple of kills there just by virtue of his burn damage and virtue of the blade mail. So, with Naga down for 55 seconds, the buyback, no one on the board can buy back. Not a single person. She's down for good, as is Venge. They're going to have a shot to get a Rax of their own, and they can make up for their mistake in a big way right here.
Honestly, that was a really smart play by VP, forcing that fight, but they just did not count on BKB, on Havos. Picking up that BKB, that was the first charge he ever used, coming into that team fight, popping it beforehand, and then coming in, securing those kills. They could have just, honestly, just ran away and should have been okay. I mean, again, those are points where you just need to teleport out, but still, they might have been able to just run away. And especially with Cheese and Aegis, potentially turn that fight. But really well done by Havos, taking advantage of that separation by them and the BKB use.
And now they're going to move back towards top. They did have glyphs, so they glyphed the tier 2. I actually didn't see how far away the creep wave was following that fight. Thought it was a little closer, so it took them a little while to get it down. Taking a look at the Naga. Naga still has the Cheese, so she's in good shape. And for this next fight, the Aegis is still on the TA as well. So neither have been lost. They may engage. Here we go. Spectral Dagger thrown out. And it looked like both teams were ready to go for it at one point. Now they decided to blow the Laguna Blade. There's going to be a catch on KSI. Naga Sleep going to give them a reset button. Disruptor's already down. And they're going to try to run Dindy. Spin his coil as well. And Funnick's just going to go for it. Uses the Yules on the Naga. And barely makes it back to the low ground before Firefly expires. Havos gonna dive it. There's a swap getting Illidan back to safety. In the meantime, one dies. And yeah, like at this point, Na'Vi just continuing. Like this honestly doesn't even feel like it's a composition win. I feel like Na'Vi's just out playing him. Puppy gonna be knocked down. Now there's a Scythe of Ice on Dindy. Can they clean him up in time? Nope, not quite. And Frostbite locked her down. Burn damage. Havos is just sitting under the tier 3, setting up shop. got a BKB that he's going to pop. And we'll be ensnared down through it. Now this is just an overextension, it feels like. So they do manage to get him. Illidan might be in trouble. Puppey ends up dying. Dindy's in trouble. They will maybe not be able to get Puck. But yeah, that entire, the front half of that sequence, it felt like Na'Vi outplayed them. Second half just felt like one gigantic overextension that got worse and worse.
Yeah, I really agree with that. hOlyhexOr, if he had a buyback, sure, he's fine being aggressive like that. But when you have the Aegis and the cheese up on those heroes, you really can't dive that far in if you don't have a buyback. So he put himself in a really bad position, was shut down for it. Still, though, Na'Vi, they've bought themselves a little bit of time. They need to... they have the room for Spectre to be able to buy back, it looks like, before Virtus.pro can force any serious fights. But it looks like they're going to go for it. 50 seconds down on Spectre. They still have a tier 2 in their way, but no glyph. Ooh, that's actually really bad. No glyph up on Na'Vi. They might lose a Rax here.
Na'Vi's going to glyph.
They do? Oh, so good. I do that all the time.
I do it, dude. I do it all the time. Don't feel bad. You should hear the stuff that comes out of my mouth. It's a good thing I'm loud. People just think I'm right. But back to the fight. 25 seconds till Spectre's back up. There's that glyph. And if I'm VP, this, yep, there we go. There's a swap on the Funnick. Laguna Blade gonna be spent. Can they lock it down to get the kill? We're gonna see the Coil catch a couple. And the Disruptor and Illidan, everyone snapped it. Illidan, does not get the song off in time. He's down for 73 seconds. Spectre back up in 5. They're gonna pursue this out. And Dindy has a gem. If he can catch KSI, it's a death. He won't be able to, as they gave him the old okey doke. But a decent defense there. I'm 100% behind you and VP. To me, that seemed fine to me. But they just really engaged it awkwardly. They swapped Funnick. But, yeah, I mean, in the end, Na'Vi able to hold with 4. They got 3 down. Naga's down for 43 seconds. hOlyhexOr is going to get there as soon as he wants to get there, basically. He still has his ulti up when he wants to spend it. We'll see how much attention they're going to give to it. Though at this point, the way Na'Vi's fighting, I think they're just going to turtle out of Roche. I don't think they want to take any chances for the next couple of minutes. Instead, just be ready to take a fight at Roshan, get your Aegis, and get ready to push again after that.
Yeah, at the very least 1 minute.
Right.
That's when Spectre's going to have her buyback. She's pretty much maxed out. She can sell drums and maybe even sell blade mail, pick up a heart, those sort of small things. But she is really, this is where she's going to be the strongest. She's got a significant gold.
Oh, hold on. Inet's going to be lassoed back. This is a big pick for them. They rely on him tremendously if we're trying to hold this base. With him gone, no static storm, no kinetic field, they're going to be able to make something happen. They're waiting on a creep wave right now. hOlyhexOr is split pushing in bottom. And actually used his BKB and they blade mailed him. And that was bizarre.
Huh.
That, yeah. I think he meant to blade mail and hit the wrong button, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's what
exactly
happened.
what I was going to say.
But Bad Finger in the BKB, GG hOlyhexOr. 79 kills, by the way, in a 15-minute game. The experience in gold, we're looking at a slight lead for Na'Vi, up between 3,000 and 4,000. The experience lead just as high as it's always been, 25,000 going their way.
Yeah, right now, again, you talked about it earlier where KSI has been, we've seen him a little bit more. He had some good plays with Scythe of Ice, but as a split pusher, he has not been effective whatsoever. And that all goes back to that second pick of Spectre, which is so rare. I mean, we see Spectre picked up 4, usually 5 in the draft, the 5th pick. That sort of surprised, that's what our carry is going to be. But they had the really smart decision, wanted to be able to pick that up because it would be so effective versus Furion. And KSI, he keeps trying to put pressure on these lanes, but hOlyhexOr is like, that's just more farm for me.
Yep.
More farm, I can ulti in at any time.
Yeah, and it's reaching that point. I mean, you want to talk about big. He's already got a Radiance, S&Y. I mean, he's not gigantic yet, but at this point, I would imagine he's banking for a butterfly. Speaking of big items, by the way, Kuro's got an F-plate. And here we go. They're going to... they walked right into it. What a beautiful fight and turn of events for Na'Vi as they just had Virtus.pro walk right into the wrong neighborhood. Got off absolutely every piece of AoE. 2 buybacks forced. That puts VP all in. Buybacks on TA and Naga at this stage mean they have run out of time. There is no tomorrow. They lose a fight, it's GG. Roche is up right now. That's going to be free for Na'Vi. And then they're going to be able to push in afterwards if they want. But they got off everything. They got off Laguna Blade, Puppey's ult, all of the AoE, and they just walked into the wrong part of town. And Na'Vi knew what they were doing. You could see the warning was out. They wanted to bait that. They just happened to get the most perfect combination of heroes heading in that direction.
Yeah, this is really the unfortunate part of... They have such good counters to some of Na'Vi's initiation, but initiators on their own are really, really lacking, and especially when you just walk up and do it. That's just guaranteeing yourself. I don't know exactly what they were doing because they didn't smoke up. So they just ran right up into a cliff that was extremely dangerous and not worth it. They could have gone around, you know, down through bottom, and that would have been a much safer way to go, but...
As it is, the Aegis winds up on hOlyhexOr. He's low health, 6,400 gold. And yeah, he may just bank for buyback. I don't know that he needs it, because at this stage, with that big win, and the fact that they know they've got 3 minutes of buyback immunity from TA and Naga, that, like, if I'm in Na'Vi's shoes, I'm going to go back, heal up, and then just sit on their side of the map. So even if by some miracle Virtus.pro does manage to beat us in a team fight, they're not going to be able to get anything out of it. You know, they have to push out bottom before they could do anything, just because they've been missing a Rax there for a while now. But, I mean, we'll see what hOlyhexOr wants to get. I think he could just buy a butterfly and be in just beautiful shape. I'm not sure what they can do to him. If he does opt to do that, he would have to sell something to do it. That was the only problem. So we'll see what he wants to do. But as for right now, Virtus.pro, and, you know, casters and even pro players, when they talk outside a game, talk all the time about the importance of map control. This right here, you know, and sometimes that's very nebulous, but this right here just shows you why the concept of map control is so important. That right there was largely just because Na'Vi was so far ahead in terms of their influence on the map that they could just sit and set up a perfect ambush, and now in a great position because of it.
Yeah, Butterfly was picked up by Spectre. It's not really that big of a deal, but right now Na'Vi's sitting about 8,000 gold ahead. Honestly, it's more about the composition and how late the game is, rather than the net worth. But 30,000 experience lead as well. Whew. That's huge. But most wow, they even put the cheese on Crystal Maiden.
Yep.
Puppy picked that one up.
He's huge. He's got 2,200 health. like compare that. I mean, Kuro's got 1,600, but yeah, I mean, Puppy's got a BKB, his Scepter, he's got cheese, 2,200 health, and Crystal Maiden's ulti's no joke, man. Like, the damage that comes out of that is gigantic.
You've got Ethereal as well on Dendi. That's going to be even more damage for that ultimate now. It almost feels like Dendi's now just sort of that 3 sort of assisting the carries, being Crystal Maiden and Spectre.
Yep. And, you know, it's been an up and down game. It's been a hell of a game. It's been one of the better, more entertaining all-around games I've watched in a while. It's kind of had it all, thrills and chills and spills and all. Some mistakes here and there, both teams doing some goofy stuff. hOlyhexOr fat fingering a BKB and man-moding his way under a tier 3 and giving away a fight. So hasn't been necessarily the tightest game, but it's been some damn good Dota. I want to thank each and every one of you guys as we get closer to an hour in. Thank you for being a part of our broadcast. Na'Vi going to look to seal this series 2-0. VP, though, hoping for a good defense and the chance to force a Game 3 here in the D2L. And a secondary reminder, this is just our first series of the day. We're going to have another great matchup coming up next. Mal Sports taking on Team Liquid, so make sure, even if you got to go hit the head, grab a beer, get yourself something to eat, whatever, do it, but come back. You don't want to miss the Dota we have here on the D2L. And Na'Vi beginning to rattle their saber near mid. Virtus.pro's got 3 away from mid right now. Let's see what they want to do. They're going to TP1 back. Na'Vi eventually is going to figure this out. 2 heroes from Na'Vi have buyback, only the 1. Actually, Spectre does not have it now. So hOlyhexOr, yeah, just pulling back here. I'm actually surprised Na'Vi's not just playing this super aggressive. But hOlyhexOr, well, I mean, hOlyhexOr can get there as soon as he wants, though, by a haunt. So I guess he's just going to take his time and farm away in the meantime.
Yeah, that was a little bluff there by VP. They're trying to force some sort of teleports. You know, Furion by himself, yes, Spectre can deal with, but the question of whether or not, you know, TA and those that other assistants, the VP, it looked like they're almost hoping to be able to force a teleport back from Na'Vi just so they can delay and be able to have that buyback for the next team fight. 1 minute in, Na'Vi, I think they should really force this fight right now while those buybacks are on cooldown, because you know hOlyhexOr is going to be able to come in, do a ton of damage. He even has Boots of Travel now, which I was going to talk about. With that Boots of Travel, he can now be able to buy back and Boots of Travel in, because he's going to be using his ultimate, obviously, for the first engagement. So they have basically 3 different lives of Spectre being inside the middle of that team fight guaranteed.
And Na'Vi instead just lying in wait. Now they're going to smoke, so trying to get an advantage through trickeration. They get a ward down. For a while there, they had a ward inside of the base of Virtus Pro. And it's something Na'Vi and many teams do whenever they're trying to crack it, just especially whenever you have two heroes like a Puck and like a Bad Rider that you know can get away with initiating above the walls and then coming back via Force Staff. But Virtus Pro is still actually fairly spread out. We just saw one TP away. hOlyhexOr still isn't there. He's at about half mana right now. And Na'Vi's actually playing this a lot more passively than I would have expected. They only have about 60 seconds left on this Aegis. If they want to get something out of it, they need to do it right now. Otherwise, they're going to risk that awkward moment where you TP in, think you have an Aegis, and all of a sudden you don't, and they're going to be able to get one. NS spotted out. Shiva's, by the way, picked up on Fun because we see that reveal. So he's feeling very, very tanky. And let's see if they're finally ready to push. Again, the time on that Aegis, quite low. And I think they're just going to have to just assume that that's not going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, well, when hOlyhexOr used his Boots of Travel to go to bottom, I think that put them on a cooldown. Just because the fact that they wouldn't have that buyback teleport in, they had to wait for that to be off cooldown now. So KSI, he's trying to do what he can to keep the pressure up, but Na'Vi, they're just kind of locking VP in their base. They're not really getting much farming experience. It's just pretty much KSI who's picking up anything for the team and the minor amount of gold that they get from some of these pushes. So even though I think it's a problem, the fact that Virtus Pro, they can go later and still be able to take a fight, I feel that Na'Vi has such an advantage that they should try and go right now. They're still locking VP in enough that they're not really gaining anything, while Na'Vi, of course, is just doing little bits of damage to the tower, bit by bit.
58 minutes in, and the slow siege continues. Na'Vi actually withdrawing all the way back to their own side of the river. Looks like they want to try and catch KSI. And KSI beginning to fill his inventory up pretty considerably as well. Looks like he wants an MKB, and he won't be far from it. But so far, I got to admit, I mean, I'm a little baffled. It's especially with the Disruptor down. Felt like they would have had an excellent opportunity to take a fight there. But instead, just, I guess, probably just waiting on a certain item from the boat. He's got 4,800 gold in the bank, so he'll be able to grab whatever he wants coming up next. Looks like he either sold, yeah, most likely sold his Blade Blade.
Yeah, he traded that in for the Butterfly earlier. His Aegis is now down, so they're going to wait for the next Roshan and the next big item from Spectre, which I'm presuming is going to be Heart. But he could go even more aggressive, something like an Abyssal. It's up to him. I mean, if he has the extra life of buyback as well as Aegis, the more offensive, the better.
Right.
I think so.
I agree. And KSI spotted. This is a pretty big pickup. He will have buyback, and he may have. We'll see if he uses it. I don't think he'll use it immediately. Up at top, though, the Boast is actually eating a lot of damage. Uses his BKB and just walks through. There's a swap back, and he has some help coming. Nope, never mind. That ain't help. That is a missed sprout. But hOlyhexOr scythed out, continuing to run. Ensnare's going to lock him down, and there was a big crit. The immediate buyback, and Na'Vi going to try to abuse the positioning of Virtus Pro, we're seeing. Yep, Virtus Pro forced to pull back. They're just going to rush down the tier 4. And Spectre, again, who did buy back, he's ready and a part of this. Virtus Pro forced to come in. Naga actually used her ult there, so they're not going to have it for this fight. Used her ult in anticipation of what she thought was going to be Na'Vi responding to top, and that wasn't the case. And they're having a hard time defending right now. Glyph, really their last hope. Puppy still has sheets, can use it whenever he wants. BKB used, and here we go. They're going to get NS. NS going to be cleaned up. BKB's wearing off. Puppy being blown up after using the cheese. There's the Laguna Blade that gets one big kill. Scythe device catches Tame, and the ulti from Puppy doing okay damage. Lasso on KSI. They need to bring him down. His right click is pretty immense right now. They've managed to bring down Rylai, and the racks still stand. In the meantime, their base is getting chewed away by the big guys, and they just weren't able to siege it out. So Virtus Pro, as we roll past an hour into this game time, manages to hold the line. We've got 89 kills on the board in a 61-minute game. That rack's still down from Na'Vi and has been for some time. But they're forced back. They almost lost the tier 4 there if they hadn't got back pretty quickly. That was a big old creep wave.
Yeah, this is a disadvantage when it comes to 4 protect 1 strategies. Usually the idea being like, oh, you go late enough, you can win the game. But if it goes extremely late, like one of these games, you still have VP, even though they don't have the harder carry, they still have a lot of really good semi-carries who are all picking up items. You've got Manta, who's now picked up on Naga Siren. Furion's hitting very, very hard with his Daedalus. It's a big problem for them, and this is going to give VP the opportunity to push out their lanes, get some map control, and Roshan's going to be up in just 10 seconds.
Wow.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, Na'Vi, didn't he just bought the store? Didn't he walked in and says, yeah, I'll have it all. That's all good. That is a level 4 Dagon, so you could say he's got a smidge of damage, and with the F-Blade, he's got the ability to put it to some use, too. Look at the nuke damage they have. Kuro with an F-Blade of his own and a Laguna Blade. Level 3 ulti, obviously, and a Scepter. Then you got Puppey, who is walking around with 2,200 health at this point. A Scepter of his own, a BKB. Virtus.pro does take Roche. There's no surprise there. Saw it happening on the map. They, with the armor reduction and the right click they have. I mean, it's basically ultimate glass cannon magic damage plus Spectre for Na'Vi, and then ultimate right-click armor reduction for Virtus.pro.
Yeah. I almost wonder... He's probably going MKB, but I would almost wonder if it would be worth it to go all in and give Aegis to Furion and pick up a Divine. But he's just
I would love
go
to see it.
Yeah. It'd make for much more exciting. Smoke up.
We can always help. We can always hope. You're in mid. Na'Vi, we're having some smoke. This is going to be one of those games that just comes down to one bizarre, and one not bizarre. You know how it is. It gets to this point where either team can blow either team up almost immediately if they get the advantage. So what it ends up coming down to is just who gets to jump on each other, and in this case, simultaneous smokes into simultaneous but reversed positions in the enemy's jungle. And the big advantage, though, situations like this actually favor VP, because now look at this creep wave. Na'Vi, Virtus.pro can set up shop down here. Na'Vi can't do this. They can't afford to just sit and let the creep wave push in. And
they pick him off.
Oh, there's a big swap, and hOlyhexOr, Scythe down, he's gone.
No buyback.
Yep,
they can go all in.
No buyback at all. Virtus.pro in position. Funnick's going to try to grab someone. Heard the magic damage done. Wicked sick indeed. They're going to be able to blow up another one. Tame's gone. It's 2 for 2. They lost Puck in the meantime. Kuro now going to be locked down. KSI's going to be careful. KSI drops. No, they're going to be able to get the Venge as well. What should have been a victory lap for Virtus.pro comes apart at the seams because of how much magic damage they have. Now Illidan, fresh off the Aegis, forced to use his Song of the Siren. Doesn't have a TP. Going to have to hoof it out. But this game keeps going. And Funnick going to use Yules. I was going to say, does he really want to do that? At this point, they need to just fall back and cut their losses. Losing hOlyhexOr there should have been the end of the game. Instead, this game rolls on. Scythe of Ice out on Kuro now. The net worth on the entire map is ridiculous. The only poor guy who doesn't have a huge amount of gold is Disruptor, who did finally finish his 35-minute mechanism. But the items on these heroes are just gigantic. KSI finishing MKB. Still lacking. There's going to be another lasso that pulls back Tame. He's blown up after the F, and now KSI Scythe device. Can they get him? The Rax is still standing, and BKB used. There's another Scythe of Ice. KSI forced back out. Again, the Rax is still up. Funnick looking for a target, uses the Yules. If they get Naga, it's a big deal. He doesn't have lasso. Just trying to buy time. There's the Frostbite, the lockdown Illidan. Follow-up stuns, a lot of health, but he's down to half. Forced to use the Song of the Siren one more time. And just going to try to run again. And here we go. Going to continue to pursue this out. Let's see if they can catch him. Don't think they can, as he does have phase boots. He's got help on the way in NS. And there's the glimpse to send back the bat, so that'll be enough to turn them away. At the end, though, what could have been a victory lap for Virtus.pro is one set of racks still standing, and the game rolls on. Up at top, KSI is actually... That's big. Does he have buyback? He does not. So he's down. He's gone. He's down for a minute and a half, and they got NS elsewhere. What in the hell's going on? Virtus.pro, with a well-executed smoke gank that almost won them the game, they end up just getting picked apart and out of position across the map, and Na'Vi now rushing down this middle lane. Illidan's still up, but he's not going to be able to do much by himself, just him and the Venge. And already, hOlyhexOr chopping wood here, needs a creep wave and needs it right now so he can get ahead of this back door. Illidan's going to rush in and, forced to use it again. 60-second cooldown. Seems like it's always off cooldown because it is. He's got a Force Staff, his Blink Dagger still on cooldown, but that will be enough to allow them to retreat. Right now, they're just buying time. Navi's there in mass, though. Full team ready to go. They're at least going to get one set of racks. They got creep waves pushing down in top and bottom. This could decide it, depending on who dies. Not a lot of buybacks available on either side. Only the Bat and the Venge. And if either team gives up too much here, let's see, Na'Vi might just pull back and just say, okay, it's 1-1 now. They're going to rotate the top, and now hOlyhexOr's going to be ensnared down. There's a Spectral Dagger thrown. The rest of Virtus.pro almost back up. 25 seconds on Furion. Just enough time to get this down. They're doing a decent job of trying to zone them out. Tier 3 down to half health. hOlyhexOr goes back to work. Illidan uses the ensnare. There's Wave of Terror. There's going to be the armor reduction. BKB popped in lasso. Gonna grab TA. BKB up on both sides. There's a swap to get him out of trouble. NS in the meantime, he's locked down. hOlyhexOr is still up and fighting and burning everyone down. Down goes Venge. There's a buyback that comes out. That's going to be the last one they have available. And Na'Vi doubling up their opponents now in a almost 100 kill game. Here comes KSI. Scythe of Ice on Funnick. Gonna go to work on hOlyhexOr. hOlyhexOr able to tank through the damage and peace out Furion. Sent back home via the Laguna Blade. Another Song of the Siren. But don't know that it matters. This might be all done but the crying. As Na'Vi moves back in. Funnick's there. And that'll be it. That's gonna be the conclusion of this game as they clean up the last remaining damage dealer, save for the Naga. That's gonna be a set of racks down. And KSI's option. Didn't have time to talk about it in the heat of the moment. He had the option to go and try to base race it home. And he had enough damage that Na'Vi couldn't have sent anyone but hOlyhexOr back to try and stop him, which would have stopped or put a halt to the push on the racks. Instead, he tried to engage. Got a little too spread out. And looks like we're probably, we will almost certainly have Megas up. The kill count in excess of 100 now. And there's another Laguna Blade as Kuroki's basically firing that thing off like an automatic weapon. And what an insane game here, Capitalists. I mean, it looks like they're not going to call GG quite yet, but don't know, as low as they are, I don't know there's a whole lot they can do. He's going to move in with the Song of the Siren again and try to get 2 kills at once here and going to mistime it. BKB's come out, Funnick, and we'll be able to use the lasso. Puppy's going to go ahead and run for it. Kuro, same thing. And there's going to be a coil as they re-engage on the Illidan. hOlyhexOr chopping wood. Ensnare's going to lock him down. Let's see if BKB lets him take through the magic missile. Dindy over in the woods re-engages and blows him up with the level 5 Daikon. There's a silence forcing the BKB out of Venge. Naga bought back. And this game just continues to get nutty and stay nutty as it's been the entire time. 70 minutes in, 2 sets of racks down. Begin to suspect that this game has reached its conclusion in all but the GGs.
I can't believe this VP's still in the game, and it was all because MVP creeps. Took down the mid racks, took down both the towers. That's a naked throne. Honestly, like, VP could still win this. I mean, they're still on even ground, and they have the protection of tier 4's. One misplay by Na'Vi. They've got tons of buybacks. They're ready for a really good fight, but all it takes is something sneaky from Virtus.pro. I mean, it's not about the team fights, it's all about the throne. If that throne dies, it doesn't matter who's winning the team fights, man. So, this is absolutely crazy. I thought Na'Vi was going to be able to end the game, but VP, with those stalling tactics, they're now completely up. It looks like they're going to be able to try and force a fight here with buybacks down, though.
It's going to be rough. TA's going to be lassoed back, and the magic damage is just immense. If O's going toe-to-toe, he will be blown up. He buys back immediately. There's the Song of the Siren. They traded 2 for 1. Buyback on TA is non-existent. They have to go back. This is what I was talking about, why it's all over but the crying. With the missing 2 racks, and yes, Na'Vi's missing 2 racks as well, but Na'Vi has them beat. Or I guess you could look at the Prophet and say he has global presence as well. But with Boots of Travel and Haunt on hOlyhexOr and the low cooldown on Haunt on top of that, it was hard for them. It's hard to imagine a scenario where VP's able to get onto Na'Vi's side of the map quick enough, because Na'Vi, and that was basically a desperation moment here out of VP. That's how they had to do it. They had to rush down. Now hOlyhexOr's now going to be spotted out, eating a lot of damage. Can they follow it up? We're going to see one cleaned up hOlyhexOr, and the coil goes down, and the ulti from Puppy. And Havost with the burn damage cleans up the rest. GG. The desperation push out of Virtus Pro, not quite enough. 77, 78 to 37, 115 kills in a 71-minute game. The gold, 20,000 to hell. The golden experience, hell with that. It doesn't even matter at this stage of the game. You get this late, that stuff stops mattering.
Yeah.
What a game, my friend.
Dire's middle tower
And this has just been such a ride. I can't believe usually games that go this late, it's because of a lot of passive play and conservative, just two different hard carries trying to farm up, and then you get a whole bunch of crazy team fights in the late game. But this was just non-stop action. One of the most entertaining games I've had the privilege to cast. Oh man. I was expecting a lot out of these games, but Virtus Pro and Na'Vi, they just blew me out of the water, man.
What else can you say?